has anyone here ever had sex? How was it? I've never. I hear good things. Let's talk about compassionate sexual activity. One tricky area of opening our heart revolves around sex. Sex is experienced as different things by different people. It can be used to show true love or affection. It can be used simply to have fun. It can be used to smooth things over when you've gotten into a fight with your spouse, or as an excuse to indulge your laziness and not get out of bed. It can be a wonderful, painful, humiliating, and at times I would posit, a compassionate activity. In terms of Buddhism and sex, we know for a fact that even the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, had intercourse. While growing up in his palace, he apparently had a large harem of women. Some texts state that these women were simply dancing girls, others that they were courtesans who would please the prince in more carnal ways. In either case, we know that our friend Siddhartha had sex because his wife Yashodhara eventually gave birth to a son, and as far as I know, sex is generally how children are created. Flash forward to when Siddhartha became a Buddha, and suddenly he had a number of people coming to him trying to live a spiritual life. He realized that his monastic followers would have to abide by certain rules, principal among them the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts are not taking the life of sentient beings, not taking what is not offered, not engaging in sexual misconduct, not using mindless speech, slander, gossip, lying, idle speech, and not ingesting intoxicants. We will be focusing on the 3rd precept, Karmesu Miracharya Viramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami, or I will take the vow to abstain from engaging in sexual misconduct. All 5 of these precepts have been interpreted in numerous ways over time and in different cultures. In the West, there are some Buddhist communities where monastics vow to abide by these rules, but lay practitioners do not. Some communities encourage their lay practitioners to work with the precepts on an ongoing basis, while others utilize them only in long-term retreat situations. I think any contemplation of these precepts can be helpful for a practitioner, so long as they take them to heart. However, I cannot imagine that the Buddha laid out for these precepts so that thousands of years later, his followers could fight over the right way to utilize them. If anything, I think the story of the Buddha's teaching career serves as a signal about how we can explore the meaning of sexual misconduct for ourselves. As we mentioned earlier, following his enlightenment, the Buddha set out to find a handful of ascetics with whom he had practiced meditation before. They are quite down on Siddhartha Gautama because last time they saw him, he had abandoned the path of strict asceticism, a sign that he clearly was going nowhere on the spiritual path. As the Buddha approached his fellow meditation practitioners, he saw a marked change in his appearance. He had a great joy and presence to him, which was extremely magnetizing. They began to move closer to him and begged him to teach them how he had achieved such mastery over his own mind. Instead of giving them precepts or set disciplines then and there, he extended an invitation by saying, "Come and see for yourself." So this gets back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of our evening together, where I can't sit here and say, here's what mindfulness might look like in a bar for you or in the bedroom for you. It's an individual path where we actually have to figure out how we can apply mindfulness and compassion to these activities that we're already engaged in. So what it looks like for me is different than what it looks like for you. We have to come and see for ourselves what makes sense. We have to be able to discern what we can and cannot engage in our life with mindfulness and compassion. Now, I want to bring up one point here, along the lines of I take the vow to abstain from engaging in sexual misconduct, which is one dialogue that I have found is not often had here in the West in Buddhist circles, is looking at this and inverting it. When we're saying, what we're saying here is we're saying I'm going to not cause harm, right? I'm not going to cause harm in sexual misconduct. I think in order for us to really bring compassion into this activity, we might want to invert that in a positive way and say, how can we promote positive sexual relations? So not how can I create harm, but how can I actually create a situation that's a benefit to myself and the other people involved? So this subtle switch is where we actually really begin to encounter bodhicitta. How can we have an open heart when we engage people in sex, which is, frankly, risky behavior, right? But if we're going to do it, what is the choice, right? If we're going to try and create less harm in the world and try and be of benefit to others, we have to be able to actually bring an open heart to the bedroom. We have to be able to bring an open heart to our long-term relationships, to our dating scene, whatever our romantic life involves.